Hey YouTube, this is Little Green Guy again. It's been a while since I've posted or made any content. Um, as you can see, I found something at Walmart. Yeah, and I just picked it up just yesterday. Fairly cheap, not too bad pricing wise. Again, it's an anniversary item as opposed to a standard diecast, so I understand why it was a little bit expensive. But I'm just a little bit concerned with this guy. And like the reason why I'm concerned isn't because it's because of like what everybody's been talking about on Twitter, of course. I mean, this specific wagon, I did all that by hand. That's what it looked like originally. This is what it looks like now. Um, and it sucks. It really sucks because the die-cast Thomas that comes with it is immaculate. Like, honestly, really fucking great. You know? Like, I know the aesthetic's a little bit weird with the running board and the side rods only being metallic. As you can see, I painted the buffers on mine silver with a paint pen. But, like, I'm really worried about this. And as the title will go up on the video, I'm going to call this video To Be Great But Concerning. Because, honestly, I'm glad. Sorry, there's a gremlin on the table. Like, I am glad that... Oh, she likes the takers. Damn, my cat likes trains. Like, I'm glad that they went out of their way, right, to make the new diecast with the different proportions and, you know, for the 80th and everything. And I honestly quite like them, you know, and I do find it kind of funny that they released the pilot, and also the pilot didn't have lamp irons. Oh, she's inspecting. Elsie. Why are you inspecting? Why are you inspecting? Alright, now that Gremlin's back playing with her toys and stuff. I do find it interesting how the running board, except for the lamp, is completely flat, like the Pilot Thomas. It's kind of funny. I wonder if they're going to make a variant with the Pilot details. Most likely not. They've already made a chase variant of, book illustration Thomas from the first Railway Series book that he was in. So to make another chase variant, like, it's just a basic idea, nothing more. But, no, yeah, it sucks, because the proportions and the design of this Thomas is great. And one thing I do appreciate, there's only one screw on the base. And I know a lot of people who like to customize their die casts and stuff, like, they're going to be a little bit pissed by that. But kids are smarter than people give them credit. Like, a kid finds a Phillips head screwdriver, they're gonna fucking take them apart. You know, they're gonna disassemble them, and then small pieces are gonna quickly become a fucking choking hazard. So for the only thing to be disassemblable, and maybe even not, you know, because I haven't taken this guy apart yet, the only thing to be taken apart is literally the smoke box. Like, it's fine. It's okay. Like, dude, we don't mind just being able to only face swap this engine. Like, it's completely understandable why the main body has a rivet on it, you know? Especially when the whistle is separately attached, and that's likely a much smaller section put inside the diecast body shell. Honestly, I don't regret buying this solely because of this Thomas. It's great. And honestly, even with this Thomas, I found a secondary purpose for the mine carts that come with it. The minerals inside that, I'm not going to take it out of the shiny one. I'm going to try to preserve this one as best I can. But the minerals that you could take out of the wagon, you know, the little coal, like little mine carts, right? It's removable. It's hard to do with one hand. It's a removable piece with a plug, almost like a Lego brick. And yeah, it's just a little four-wheeled wagon. It kind of sucks. It's some All-Engines Go shit. You know, they just kind of had to fill out the pack. Kind of makes me wonder why they didn't just make a metallic Annie and Clarabelle to go with them. But, you know, that's life. You know, we don't always get what we want. But this fucking paint issue, man. Kids are going to be buying this shit. Scalpers, kids, and, like, collectors are going to be buying this shit. And it's mostly going to be kids and scalpers. And scalpers, they're going to sell them online, and, you know, either some kids are going to want their grandparents to buy them because they saw them on eBay, or a kid on a store shelf, a kid like looking at a store shelf is going to fucking find this thing, right? Because they have the cardboard displays at Walmart currently with them, and that's how I found this one. It was the last one on the shelf. Damn you scalpers! They haven't brought, because I'm from Tennessee, I'm from Eastern Tennessee. It's, they've only had the Trackmaster Greatest Moments packs out recently, and that's it. Like, I haven't even seen a Trackmaster Duck or Percy yet. Me and my partner, we got James and Thomas, and we modified them with old Trackmaster wheels, and that's it. That's all we've gotten of this new range of Trackmaster stuff, so it's probably going to be a couple months till I even see, like, the James, Percy, Henry, or even maybe possibly the Chase variant of Thomas. It's going to be a while till I see that. This is my first experience with these new diecasts, and honestly, it's great. Like, great design of toy. Something interesting, too. I think somebody at Mattel is watching out for us, because the coupler height for the rear coupler is perfectly matched to old Ertl diecast hooks. So you could have this Thomas full-on haul old Ertl diecast merch perfectly fine, and it wouldn't be out of place. Like, it rolls. Also, this thing rolls like buttery smooth, even on this old towel that we got covering the table. Like, look at this shit. It's like butter. So again, another W for the engine. But this is genuinely fucking concerning. I completely agree with Trainboy and his video assertion, because he's a dad now. He's a parent. He sees it from the perspective both as a collector and as a parent. And this is very fucking concerning. Honestly, I'm surprised that these haven't been recalled yet, and that scares the shit out of me. Like Thomas's, for instance, the franchise has been going through a pretty fucking rough bout, and it's mostly thanks to Mattel's misdecisions and poor choices and shit with the franchise. That's their fault. But I am so goddamn worried that some kid is going to get sick because of this shit. Literally, I tried to prove it to my partner yesterday that the paint would rub off, and it just came off on my fucking thumb. My thumb was literally like if you put a silver Sharpie against your thumb and just drew on your thumb to make like a thumbprint. That's exactly what it looked like. And the rest of this was done, because I want to see if I could just take off most of the shit. The rest of this was done with my thumb. I did this with my thumb. Just doing that for like 5-10 minutes maybe. And it's clean. Like, again, I'm going to try to preserve that wagon as best I can. Maybe clear coat it to where it's, it preserves that thing. But this shouldn't be like this from the factory. I mean, even since it's a fucking anniversary item, these should be, like, solid, right? I understand that there's a silver coating underneath this candy, varnish that they've put on the running board. It's to make it look like it's metal. They just made a rough surface on the plastic, and you can kind of see it. They made a rough surface on the plastic and covered it in a candy red clear coat, right? Kind of like how they used to do the old Hot Wheels red lines, back in the day. I've actually got an example of one. It's a 50th anniversary, Plymouth Barracuda, and it's the same process. It's the metal underneath basically just being lightly varnished with a green clear coat, right? But with this is just a light spray paint that they barely fucking varnished onto a smooth surface. This is why this shit is coming off so easily. I didn't polish this. This is smooth plastic. Who the fuck thought it would be a good idea to not prime or rough up the surface on the base of this shit? That is the worst design choice you could ever make. Paint needs something to fucking adhere to. If it's gonna be a fucking smooth plastic, you need to put a primer underneath it to hold on to the paint. Either that or sand it down or have it roughed up via the mold purposefully so that shit sticks on. I mean, that's how y'all put the paint on the fucking diecast. Why the fuck can't y'all put it in the same way on these? Like, that's ridiculous. This could get a kid sick. And that's really fucked. both from like a marketing standpoint and from a health and safety concern standpoint, because you're putting kids at risk because of a die-cast Thomas. You know? Mostly collectors are going to grab these things because, you know, the main die-casts are supposed to be what kids are buying, right? 80th anniversary merch, like, a kid is going to get it, right? That's probably either why there were so few on the shelf at the Walmart that I went to. Either that or because of scalpers, because fuck scalpers. I hope every single one of them ends up tripping at a goddamn bathroom stall on their shoelaces. You know? It's either because of scalpers, or it's because a bunch of kids saw a Thomas that they liked and they wanted their parents to buy it. That's the main reason a kid's going to end up getting this shit. And it's mostly because they're the target audience, understandably so. So why the fuck do we buy a $12 item, right? A $12 item. Only to find that this is the quality of product within it. Really, the quality of product isn't the main concern. It's the fact that a company cut a shortcut with a product to make it cheaper and get it out on the shelves quicker without thinking about the innate fact. And you can even see the spray paint isn't even entirely coated at the base. There's a rough part where it isn't, you know, the same metallic sheen, just to fucking get them sold. And that isn't good. Collectors are going to keep these in boxes for the sake of the 80th anniversary of Mattel, blah, 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 blah. It is just a fucking piece of plastic at the end of the day. But kids are also going to fucking buy this, which is not good. And this is coming from a guy who collects Thomas & Friends items. I have Ertl diecast, I have Ertl Gold Rail, I have fucking Diapet Thomas & Friends items, you know, the highly detailed ones that came from Japan. I have fucking classic Tomy, Trackmaster, fucking, you know, Take Along, you know, Wooden Railway, all that shit. I even got a fucking G-Scale Thomas that my partner got for me. You know, she's awesome. You know? And, like, I've never seen that type of, like, misquality in a product like this before. Like, even, like, the early push-alongs, they sucked. But their paint wasn't coming off of my fingers. And, like, this is the only product, really, where this could happen. And the one fucking product where this could happen, they fumbled this hard. Which makes me genuinely fucking sad, because it's like, this range just started. This is what's showing up in, like, the eastern part of the U.S. as the first, you know, signs of the diecast range. I haven't seen any Jameses, Thomases, Percys, Henrys, or anything. I haven't even seen the secondary, you know, small engines packs with Duck and Percy and Trackmaster. This is people's first impressions of the new push-along Thomas. They're like, hey, I got a great Thomas, but my kid may get sick. Right? That's not good. That is not decent. That's not okay, and that shouldn't be fucking accepted. I think Mattel just shot themselves in the foot in the worst ways possible. Because if this goes on any longer and, like, you know, normie parents find this shit, I don't even mean just, like, collector parents, because let's be for real. There are Thomas & Friends fans now who have kids, you know? I know people make jokes, oh, you're never going to have a partner, blah, 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 that type of shit when it comes to collectors like us. But there are Thomas & Friends fans who have kids, right? Train Boy, you know, like, people like, there's another YouTuber that I follow, that I've been following since the beginning. He used to make Trackmaster recreations. He has 2 twin sons, right? Either that or twin daughters. I can't remember exactly. I haven't been on Twitter in a long time. Shiza. I can't remember his name exactly. But I remember I grew up watching his content because he made Trackmaster, you know, recreations of stories and his own custom stories. And, like, fans are going to collect this stuff, both for them and for their kids. And their kids are going to play with it, and then they're going to find out. Imagine what's going to fucking happen when a Karen gets a hold of this shit and goes across Facebook saying, oh my god, the new Thomas is going to kill you. Bro, it's going to literally not only tarnish the beginning of the diecast range, but it's going to tarnish the fucking Thomas & Friends brand's image again because Mattel wants to fucking take shortcuts. No! Do the right thing, Mattel. What the fuck? Like, what are you doing? Why? Stop being a fucking goober! You made a great Thomas, you just couldn't get the fucking wagons right. Like, what the fuck? And I think that's what frustrates me the most out of this, is because, like, if they hadn't fucked up the paint on these wagons, nobody would be worried. We would just be like, oh, damn, this is a really good start to the diecast range, even if it's a bit misguided and weird. These should have been Annie and Clarabelle because they have diecast push-along Annie and Clarabelles, even if they're a little bit shorter than Thomas's rear bunker and kind of out of scale. It's fine. That would have made sense for a pack, right? But they just had to cut... They had to fucking cut a corner. They had to cut a corner, man. And here we are. I just hope and pray to God it doesn't get a kid sick. I hope they do the right thing and recall these in a manner that's professional. And I hope that Karens don't get to this before the fandom gets to this. You know? Because the fandom, we can look at this in a way that's like understanding and from a critique standpoint. From a fandom, we have parents in the fandom who grew up with this shit, who can look at this and say, this is fucked, they need to, recall this. Otherwise, the Thomas is great, you know? This is a good start to the range, just not from a quality control standpoint, you know? But Karens, you know how they are. They look at a product, they see the chance for a fucking trend to go on their Facebook page, and they blow up like a nuke. You know? Like the toy designers, the people who made this shit, the fucking Cars diecast designers who redesigned the Thomas & Friends range, they don't deserve to fucking get their name squandered like this. They put hard work and effort into this so that fucking people could actually have this. Right? People sat down at their computers with 3D modeling software, creating new diecast molds and new plastic molds, costing probably thousands of dollars, which of course is going on Mattel's budget, not on the budget of the creators, to bring back Classic Thomas, right? In a way that's actually solid. Like, this thing is way more heavy than the other push-alongs. This thing is made quality, right? This thing is solid as fuck. Like, it's heavier than an Ertl diecast. It's heavier than a take-along. You know, it's about equal to a classic take-along Thomas, maybe even a little bit more, right? And it rolls smooth as butter, right? This is great. I love this. You know, it's about the same type of quality that you get out of a Cars diecast, you know? Heavy-duty, quality diecast with a decent plastic base, good PVCs that are going to make this motherfucker last a long time and roll incredibly well. It's the same type of thing. But then they just had to infect it with this shit, you know? And, had they not coated these in, the shittiest chrome humanly possible and just, molded them out of the silver plastic, nobody would have cared. It would have been fine. I feel like this metallic flake plastic underneath was made there for a purpose, you know? Maybe this is what they were originally going to look like and just go about their business. No big deal. Nobody would have minded. Hell, this candy coat plastic is fine. It coats the plastic enough to seemingly protect it from fucking flaking and shit. I mean, of course, you can see where the sprue was cut off right there. You know, you see where the sprue was cut off, so that leaves a little bit exposed. But this candy plastic coating is enough to fucking seemingly protect the running board, to protect the silver coating underneath this candy red clear coat, right? So why the fuck couldn't they just do it here? You know? They shot themselves in the foot. And even if they initially were intending to mold this in silver plastic, this could have had a purpose in people's Trackmaster layouts. Old, British coal stages used to have tipper wagons, which are seen at some preserved railways, where they would be filled up with anthracite and then tipped over the side into the bunkers of the engines. You remove the front coupler from this, this has an intended purpose for somebody's, Trackmaster, layout. You can recreate old antique coal stages from Britain via these small wagons. I mean, hell, they even scale up pretty decently with old Trackmaster. Sorry about him being dirty. I was trying to film a video. But you could totally recreate like an old coal stage, just tipping over shit with this. It's kind of the same argument I had with the old Thomas Minis. Also, just for size comparison, this is how big he is to a classic Trackmaster Thomas. About half the length and nearly just as tall. Like, pretty solid height, I mean, hell, even it looks kind of decent next to a Cars diecast. I mean, the height difference is, pretty spot on. I mean, I know this scales up a bit better, but, kids could play with this and be more credible in the fact of, oh, yeah, that's a train. versus a car, you know? Because you know kids are going to be like, wow, Thomas, it's good to meet you, you know, that type of shit. And it's because that's how toy systems work. You can play with different shit, but that's besides the point. Like, these could have had a decent purpose. I had an argument for the old Thomas Minis plastic wagons that used to act as, like, packaging. Like, you know the ones, the cheap ones that were a part of the motorized range for, like, toddlers, where they packaged the engine box within the wagon. Like, y'all remember that. It could have been those little wagons are actually perfectly sized as, like, fucking slate wagons for narrow gauge engines. I used to have my Trackmaster Sir Handel pull those as, like, mineral wagons, and I made little cardboard cutouts and, like, plastic, you know, sheet cutouts and painted them gray to look like slate for those wagons, almost like, you know, what you would see in the Blue Mountain Quarry. Like, these little wagons aren't entirely useless. Like, they could be used for shit. And it's annoying because, like, we're probably not going to get many more of these, thanks to this fucking, this fuck-up, right? I've got 2, but I'm afraid to handle one of them now, because I feel like the paint's just going to come off on my fucking fingers, right? And kids are going to have access to this, dude. Like, what the fuck, Mattel? Why would you do this? And, I mean, the answer is always with a corporation, money, first and foremost, but, like, you had such a fucking good head start, Mattel. You finally, like, did things with the fandom, and you did things with the franchise, which made sense, which were good. I mean, hell, just this Thomas alone is proof of that. Y'all cared enough to have the Cars toy designers come along. You know, they made artful pieces like this, right? This is just a glow-in-the-dark McQueen, but this thing is quality as fuck. It even has a fucking toe point for if you have a mater. That's great. That's awesome, right? They had the Cars toy designers come along and redesign the whole Thomas toy range, even including Trackmaster, for shit like this. And this is awesome. This is great. That's not. Why would you do this, Mattel? Why? 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 And you know, like, I don't mean to shit 100% on the diecast range, because so far, as a first impression, the engine itself is great. If this was just like a single pack, I would be completely alright with this. Right? A single pack for like $5 on those little shelves would have been fantastic. That was a needless, like I feel like that was some orchestrated shit to make the brand fall. That seems like some sketchy shit that somebody put in place so that somebody would fumble the ball. You know, that just seems too out of place to be in this pack. Like, that's some corporate bullshit. You know? It's like, this engine is a great first impression of what this new diecast range is going to be, especially if you're in the eastern United States. And thanks to tariffs, these things are hard to come by, right? This is like a great first impression. These just completely just tripwire the entire fucking experience. And, like, I don't want to shit on this toy. It's a great toy. It's really well designed. Especially alongside, you know, the previous work of the designers that made this, right? I grew up with the Cars diecast range. I'm glad they got their hands on the Thomas range. They're doing great. They're doing fantastic. This is exactly what we needed. You know, decent detail with sturdy designs. Like, these side rods do not feel like they're going to fucking just casually break off. You're going to have to beat the shit out of this thing for that to happen. You know, they learned from the separately fitted pieces on, like, the diecast Cars vehicles. Like, for instance, Doc Hudson with the fucking radio set from the end of Cars 1. I have that diecast, so I'm gonna go get it real quick. You know, like, they learned from their previous experiences that separately fitted pieces need to be made out of a sturdy PVC or rubber to make them last. Like, that's why shit like this sticks to these Cars vehicles. And I feel like they've taken the same design characteristics to the details on this Thomas, right? It's great. It's fantastic. I'm glad that they're taking the steps necessary to make these things both look great and be durable and be playable. I mean, hell, even just the thicker funnel on Thomas's smoke box allows for that shit not to get broken. The amount of, like, Thomases, like Ertl diecast Thomases from back in the day that I've seen with missing funnels is not even fucking funny. I honestly don't know why they made them that pencil thin, other than to vaguely match the proportions of the TV series counterpart, you know? But, like, God, why? Why? They could have just left him as clear plastic or packaged him with like anti-eclairs or packaged him alone. And people would have been fine. This is basically a sample testing for the new diecast range. And yet here we are. You know, like Mattel, do better. You did great. You had us in the first half, but the second half you fumbled for the sake of like for the sake of nothing. You're gonna get Karens on your ass, and you're gonna fumble a franchise that just had a good break. You know, a franchise that's good enough to be compatible with something that's over, like, what, 30 fucking years old right now? Like, this is genius. Whoever designed this was thinking about this shit. It's like perfect height. You're not even setting the wagon's front wheels off the ground. That fits perfectly. Like, whoever made this was a genius. But Mattel, be more fucking careful in future. Come on. Come on, man. Like, what the fuck?